So, first, we'll talk about some background on artificial intelligence. So many of us think that this is something that just popped up recently, and you'd be surprised to learn that this term was actually coined, my God, when some of you weren't even born and when I was just a little kid. But it was actually developed long before I was even born, back by Alan Turing in 1936. Then in 40s and 50s, we saw the first computers. And if any of you are my generation, or if any of you remember speaking to your parents about computers, they would take up a whole room. These computers, these ENIACs and UNIVACs were huge, room size, but they were the first programmable machines. And a lot of that had to do with what we once knew as key punch, where things were input into these cards and then put into the computers. Well, these huge machines that took up, as I said, a whole room were the precursors to our computers today, and they were the precursors to artificial intelligence. Now, most of us work with laptops or CPUs that are maybe the size of a book. The first exposure that I certainly had to artificial intelligence, and it may have been many of you as well, was an old movie. It's an old movie now called 2001: A Space Odyssey. It was actually introduced to the layman as artificial intelligence in 1968. And I can remember going to that movie being a little bit perplexed, a little bit scared, and totally confused. If any of you have not seen the movie, it would be something to grab on probably a Prime or some Netflix and watch it, because even today, I think it would still be confusing. But what, of course, happened in 2001: Space Odyssey is that artificial intelligence took over a spaceship. All you heard was the astronaut trying to reach out to the A, who was totally ignoring him and just running with it. Well, several movies followed, and some of these names would be familiar to some of you: Blade Runner, War Games, Terminator, and then, of course, I guess there was Terminator 2 and Terminator 3 and Terminator 4, and the RoboCop, and then an actual movie called Artificial Intelligence, and that was in 2001. And that was also a scary movie, because in that movie, the AI took over a little boy, and the little boy's name was basically discontinued by the AI. And the parents thought that this little boy was their little boy, and it wasn't. It was an AI. Then, of course, we had iRobot, and so many more have come along since then. So the concept is that you want to know, how do I manage my credit risk? As a credit and collection manager, what do you do with this? How can you use it to your benefit? You've got client data, and you need to keep the client data. You need to accumulate the client data. You need to get all the information possible: your contact information, accurate business information, addresses, billing information, and that is so important. And whether you're a client yourself, or you're dealing with a client, or whether it's an agency, all of this is information that becomes so important to whom? You, to collect your debt, and to me, the litigator, later on, trying to collect your debt when you find out that the names you had were wrong. Well, today you can use artificial intelligence to make sure you've got everything you're supposed to have correctly. But you can also tell AI, get me historical payment information. I'm thinking of onboarding this new customer. Can you look it up and tell me how this customer has been paying its other vendors? And you can get that historical payment information. You can also get historical placement information. How often has this customer been placed for collection? Or how often has this customer been sued for non-payment? You also can help with your workflow information, automation. You can put in all your data and deadlines. Deadlines are so important to your job on a day-to-day basis. But I'll tell you a little bit of a horror story that just happened yesterday. I received an email from a brand new client saying, I need your help in a bankruptcy situation. We think we missed the date for filing a proof of claim. Can you help us to file this proof of claim late? Well, I got on the phone with the poor company, and I went online to the bankruptcy court, and Unfortunately, I had to get back to him and tell him, you missed two notices that were properly sent to your company to proper addresses, and you didn't file your proof of claim. You're out of luck. There's nothing that can be done. Well, imagine if the first time that company received a notice of a bankruptcy, AI was able to put it in their calendar with a bar date for filing the proof of claim. Their claim fortunately wasn't huge. It was $47,000, but they're out of $47 because they never filed a proof of claim on time. AI can make sure those deadlines are met. AI can assist in compliance. So it can automate your compliance processes. What do I mean by compliance? Well, you have all sorts of laws you have to adhere to. You may have credit card surcharge laws that are changing every day. You may have collection laws that are changing all the time. California just changed its Rosenthal Act effective July 1, 2025, which puts into effect a whole lot more requirements for when you can collect your own debt in California. Never mind collection agencies, your own debt in California. Now, most of you are probably in the construction industry. Imagine you are trying to keep track of what's my requirements in Florida. Florida has a pre-lien notification law. New York has no pre-lien notification law. New York, you can file a mechanic's lien for 8 months. Florida, I think you have 30 days. Well, what about Wisconsin and California and Arizona? A lot of compliance issues, a lot of deadlines. You can task to automatically update those laws, those rules, those regulations as they occur. And this will help you to make sure you don't miss your lien dates, you don't miss your bond dates. Well, of course, Lori and Handel are out there to try to help you as well. But as long as you're in your office, AI can help you make sure that your computer is up to date with all the possible changes to those rules and regulations. Well, let's talk about artificial intelligence. What kinds are they? Well, there is some artificial intelligence that is only there for informative purposes. It is designed to do a specific task, and it only can perform what it's told to do. So think about, many of you use Siri or Alexa, and I know my dentist drives me crazy. I'm sitting in the dentist chair and he's saying, Alexa, put on classical music. Alexa, put on country music. Alexa, put on hard rock. And Alexa will do only what it's told to do. So it's primarily designed to both behave, to obey commands, structured information based on queries or specific contexts. This is very different than generative AI, which actually can form content or can do conversational AI. So elements of informative artificial intelligence, fact-based only. It can only spit out to you that which has been put into it. It can tailor the information based on your query. We see this being used in customer service, education, data analytics. Well, I've had a very interesting couple of months. My laptop decided to die the weekend after Thanksgiving, and my printer decided to die just about 10 days ago. Let me tell you, it is exhausting to deal with artificial intelligence because everything you try to do first governed by customer support and it's AI. And they tell you that I am an artificial intelligence, but I can help you with this. Tell me what your problem is and I can fix it. And of course, you're there trying to get your computer to work or trying to get your printer to work. And how many times don't you want to scream, give me a live body? But the truth of the matter is that sometimes the AI support can be very useful and, in fact, will answer your questions and will get your computer up and running. So then we also know there's conversational AI, and these Autobahns, if you will actually talk to you. They understand your natural language. They can engage in dialogue. They can answer the questions or even complete the tasks. And yes, they can be very useful. So the chat box are text-based conversational agents. Well, interestingly, when you try to give it us more than a generic command, too many times in the last month, I have been told, I'm sorry, I don't understand you. Try again. And it will say, try saying this. And again, you get frustrated with, I don't want to try saying something. Listen to me or just give me a live body. So I've been using ChatGPT for several years. So I decided when I was doing one of my updates on this particular presentation to ask ChatGPT, what kind of AI are you? And ChatGPT answered me. And it says, I'm an informative AI. I can provide useful, factual, and well researched answers to your question across a wide range of topics. Well, I don't have to read this to you, but basically it tells me that it's going to engage in conversation with me and it's going to help me by gathering information and providing it to me. Well, it is very interesting because a few months ago, a cousin of mine saw that I was doing an artificial intelligence program and came to me and said, is it possible for you to prepare and present an artificial intelligence program on the use of artificial intelligence in researching genealogy? Well, as Lori can tell you, I'm never one to say I can't. So I decided, let's check this out. And I went to ChatGPT and I said, can you provide me with an outline of an educational program on the use of artificial intelligence in the role of genealogical research? And it gave me a great outline. And then you know what it did at the end? It said, would you like for me to prepare a PowerPoint for you for your presentation? And I said, oh, wow. And I sat back and I said, yeah, go ahead and prepare it. And it did. Did I use the ChatGPT presentation? No. Did I use the format and the topics that it threw up on my screen? Yes, it was actually very useful for me to create a final finished program. So the final finished program was mine, but I had a lot of help from ChatGPT. Well, as I mentioned a few moments ago, I have recently had to get a brand new laptop. Well, the laptop came with Copilot. So this morning, it occurred to me, why don't I throw out the same question to Copilot? So I typed in, what kind of AI are you? And here's Copilot's response. I'm a form of generative AI. Use advanced algorithms and language models to understand your input and generate responses that are informative, engaging, and relevant. So notice Copilot goes one step beyond ChatGPT. ChatGPT is informative. Copilot is not only informative, it's generative. So let's look at generative artificial intelligence. It can create rather than analyze. Well, what I found out is that ChatGPT can create as well as analyze, and it can create images, it can create music, it can create software, and it may be used beyond conversational for more complex tasks. So how do you use artificial intelligence in your credit department? I'm going to pause for a moment before changing topics because, Lori, I think I noticed a couple of items in chat. Are they anything that I should focus upon before moving on?
No, they were just agreeing with what you were saying about talking to the chat bots as opposed to a regular customer service agent.
Okay.
But you know, something's funny that my daughter just went back to school after Christmas break and she got this science assignment that she has to work on. And they actually have a full 2 pages in there of how you'll get penalized, obviously for plagiarism, but their plagiarism now they're calling are these chat bots. You can't ask this a question and use its answer. You can't, say it was cited here on this chat box. I mean, they're actually saying that what you ask questions and the information you're getting back is plagiarism, even though it's not really out there. I thought that was kind of interesting.
It is fascinating, Lori, and that actually is not new. In the legal profession, we have actually seen this happening over the last few years. There is actually one law firm, talk about idiots. We lawyers are governed by something called a code of professional conduct and a code of professional ethics. And of course, inclusive in there is we don't plagiarize. Well, this and as a member or manager or partner in a law firm, it is my responsibility to oversee any of the younger associates or junior partners? Well, in this one case, a partner gave an assignment to an associate to research and create a motion. They created the document. The senior partner never read it, signed it, put his name on the document, never reading it. The associate had it created by AI. When they filed it in court, their opposition came forward and said, those cases that are cited in that document don't exist. Well, the idiots continued to be idiots. And they said, absolutely, they do. We know they exist. We researched it. Well, to cut the long story short, at the end of the day, it was determined that the associate had completely taken something that AI created, never checked the citations, the case law didn't exist, and the idiot senior partner never checked it. The case was thrown out. The attorneys were sanctioned and suspended from the practice of law until they could show that they had gone and taken more continuing legal education and proved that they were worthy to be let back into the bar.
How embarrassing.
So it is fascinating. But so this plagiarism, the schools, the colleges and high schools have known it for a while. And they actually have programs they can check to see if it came out of AI or if your daughter created it by themselves. But I can tell you there is plagiarism and then there's not plagiarism. So, for example, my nephew or one of my grandnephews told me over my Christmas holidays that he uses AI for research. But then he says, but no, I don't copy what it says. I then will check it and write it in my own words.
Right.
So I don't think the schools are trying to stop kids from using AI. They just want to make sure that the kids are still absolutely doing their homework. So another thing that I did this morning, it had nothing to do with this program, but as Lori and maybe some of you know, I am very much into credit card surcharging. And on Thursday, I'll be doing a program with Matt Fleege, UTA, on credit card surcharging. Well, I need to periodically make sure that there's no new laws. So I went on Copilot this morning and I said, are there any laws that have been put into place in 2024 or 2025 regarding surcharging on credit cards? And it came back to me and it gave me 3 laws, 2 of which I knew about. One was Minnesota, one was California. And they also came back and told me that Kansas had just amended its statutes effective January 1, 2025, now specifically allowing surcharging. Kansas had already allowed surcharging per their United States District Court, but now it's statutory. So I didn't copy this into my slides, but what I did was I then went into the Kansas statutes, looked it up, found the actual statute, and that's what I'll present. So it is a wonderful tool, but no, you cannot just copy and paste. That would be plagiarism. So moving on to how can AI assist the credit department? You credit executives get a lot of documents, a lot of data, and it's going to be able to eliminate manual data processing. No more copy and paste. It can access, compile, and digest much faster than human beings can, much faster than even any regular computer can, and can eliminate data processing errors. It can take a data dump and organize it into usable business bytes. So I was involved in a piece of litigation a few years ago. We had something like 23,000 documents. We had to hire companies that were going to be able to organize them by item, by topic, by searchability. AI could do that. AI was just getting known 3 or 4 years ago. Today, I probably could take that entire thing and tell AI, go organize this. It can also generate a document in any modern word processing format, PDF, Word Perfect for those that still use it, rich text format. And it can compile your documents and attach documents very quickly to another document. It could be an insertion order. It could be a project order. It could be architects' designs. So it can generate documents into large batches. This next one is a is a pet peeve of mine. It can generate monthly statements and actually send them out electronically and automatically to customers. When I am litigating, I ask for monthly statements. If in fact you have created a monthly statement and actually sent it to your customer, I can use that monthly statement in a complaint and say a monthly statement was sent, received, no one objected to it, and therefore it is presumed to be correct. In some states, they'll call it a book account. So these monthly statements, many of you I find, generate the monthly statements but never send them out to your customers, because that means printing them out, putting them in the mailbox in an envelope and mailing them. With AI, you can generate them and tell AI to send them electronically. Credit processes, e-signatures. E-signatures are definitely today. Credit applications, insertion orders, other contracts, electronic invoicing and statements, your payment portals, your cash application, all of these electronically. You can get cash now directly deposited and posted into your ERP systems. You can get all your cash. I had a client ask me recently, do you really need a check or wire transfer? Can't we do ACH? Of course I can take ACH. 10 years ago, I probably couldn't, but today it's all part of A. Sure, send me my money. I'll get it. You can have automated reminders sent out, which is enabling your customer to have 24/7 access to you. What about deductions, especially in the construction industry? This is deductions all the time. There are change orders all the time. Do you know a lot of my litigation involves change orders? Were they approved? Were they signed? Were they sent? I would love to see AI handling your change orders, and I could go into court and say, yes, it was a legitimate change order. It was generated by the customer. It was signed off by the customer and received by my client, the material man or the subcontractor. So that can get rid of a lot of disputes. It can streamline any possible disputes. What about online settlements? That can all be handled through AI, and it can secure access and data privacy as well. So let's step back for a moment and think about your risk assessment. You're making decisions every day as to, will I accept this customer? B, will I extend credit to this customer? C, how much credit will I extend to this customer? Well, as you in the past have had to pull credit information from various sources and financial statements, payment history, market trends, all of this, you can tell AI, go get me everything you can on ABC Company. And it can gather everything through social media, articles, everything, and put it into a nice clean package for you to review and make a decision on the creditworthiness. It can actually create algorithms to calculate credit scores for you based on up-to-the-minute data, and this will give you a much more accurate risk profile, enabling you to make decisions that you don't have to rely on what could be outdated or static financial reports. It can get data from AI, it can learn, it can pinpoint tasks, identify trends, freeing you and your staff up for more important things. So AI can actually predict the future. AI can take historical data and predictive modeling, and it can say, based on the last 3 years payment history, we can predict that in the next 6 months, a year, 2 years, this customer will pay on time, except during the months of July and August. It can actually tell you that. It'll identify those patterns in the company's financial behavior. It may tell you that there's a credit risk in July and August, or maybe immediately following the holiday season. So it can help you make a better credit decision. It can build workflows based on your credit policy. It can automate your credit decision process so your teams can come up with the right decision quickly. Wouldn't you love not to have to read financial reports? I can read a financial report as well as anybody. I hate it. I don't like reading financial reports. You read income statements, balance sheets. Oh my goodness, it can put you to sleep. Also, what about external data? market trends, industry performance, and macroeconomic indicators. It can take behavioral data, the history, the order patterns, customer reviews, and can automate your initial credit review process. Now, I've had many of you tell me, I don't want somebody making that credit decision for me. I'm not saying it has to replace you, but wouldn't it be nice to have AI give you a nice, neat package and say, based on this, and this is my credit recommendation. And then, of course, you can make the ultimate decision. It can take digital credit applications and they'll actually be read. Well, what do I mean by this? Many of you have told me over the years, Wanda, we get a lot of credit applications and don't have time to read them all. And many times we have to send out that first order before we ever get around to investigating credit. Well, I'll give you an example of a crazy credit application that my client never read, never looked at until it gave the credit application to us to start the lawsuit. And the credit application came from a small business. And when it asked the nature of the business, we expected to see sundries, sales, customer service. And instead, on the credit application, the potential customer had written, for the nature of business, pornography. Well, of course, I looked at that. I said, oh, what? Wait a minute. What's going on here? And then on the bottom where it asked for bank information, it said Minnie and Mickey Savings and Loan. So I got a hold of my staff. I said, are you guys crazy? Did you read this credit application? And they said, Wanda, we read it. We already talked to the client about it. And the client said, that's the only credit application we have. So go ahead and attach it to the complaint and file it with the court. I'm not sure if the court ever read it because they haven't thrown the case out yet. So read your credit applications. Get AI to read your credit applications. Get AI to read the DMB, Experian, Credit Safe reports, or any kind of credit reports. And get updated credit information periodically. And I've already said it, it can read your financial documents and extract important information and come back to you and say, hey, wait a minute, I read this financial document and I compared it to the one they gave us 3 months ago. There is something very different. You better take a look at this because something could be going on with this particular customer. So AI could catch false data. It can see an anomaly that you might not see in the financial documents from 3 months ago compared to now. It can help you prioritize your credit extension. It can tell you, hey, how about focusing on a higher risk account? This account pays on time all the time, but you know what? You've got one account here and you've been sending out a lot of orders and things are changing. So, hey, wake up. I'm AI and I'm telling you, you better pay attention to this account. Something could be going bad. So it can provide you with an analysis of customer trends and behaviors, including payment trends, and make an intelligent recommendation. It can also take care of those trade requests and bank requests, which none of you like to do. And more often than not, you're not getting them back. And I've mentioned credit scoring already. You can create that credit score for you based on data input, but it can also keep up to date with legal changes to credit score requirements. One of our good friends, Frank, likes to change things all the time in the credit community. He likes to put in changes to the ECOA. He likes to put in changes to credit scoring. So any legal changes, you could tell AI, monitor for any new laws coming down that is going to change my credit score or my ECOA requirements. It can detect fraud much faster than you can. It might detect payment fraud, identity theft, or cyber attacks. Just this week, I was getting rid of some old documents and we noticed there were some social security numbers on them and the person's deceased. And what went through my mind was, do I need to shred this document? The person's dead, or can I just throw it out? And the conclusion was, you better shred it, because somebody can pick up an old social security number of a dead person and give a personal guarantee, stealing that dead person's social security number. How many times do you get personal guarantees with social security numbers And how often do you bother to check those social security numbers until you try to collect? Now you have a dead person's social security number. You're not going to find any resources that are going to help you collect. AI can also help you prevent cyber attacks, which are so prevalent today. So it can wake you up to discrepancies in financial documents. It can also wake you up to inconsistencies in order patterns. One client got burned because they were asked to deliver $80,000 worth of goods to a customer that they knew to be a standing customer. The purchase order was perfect. The only difference was it asked those goods to be delivered to a new location. And the second difference was that they knew that this particular customer always ordered those particular products from a competitor. Well, AI would have been able to say, hey, wake up. This company doesn't order these products from you. They ordered them from a competitor. What happened in this instance was the vendor was so excited about getting this $80,000 order that they never bothered to pick up the phone and say, hey, did you really just send us an $80,000 order for these goods? What happened was the delivery site was an empty lot. And after they didn't get paid for the $80, then they called the customer. And the customer said, I never ordered those from you. You should know. I always order them from XYZ company. So inconsistent order patterns, AI could have alerted you to. In this instance, the credit manager saw it and just ignored it. So AI could also be an early detection of red flags that will help you reduce fraud when you're extending credit. How about customer onboarding? A lot of you have told me that you get a new customer, they're banging down your doors for their goods to be delivered before you have the time to do a thorough credit analysis. Well, maybe you could have AI reach out to them and let them know your credit application is being reviewed. And the next stage is looking at your credit worthiness. And we're doing this and we're doing that. So that AI could actually basically hold hands with your customer while you are in fact getting all the information you need to make a credit determination. AI might know that there are missing documents or might be able to go back to the customer and say, hey, I need more information. It can integrate your customer with, or your new customer with CRM, credit customer relations management. So it helps the onboarding, keeps the customer informed, and allows you, the trade credit grantor, more time to be efficient, to be accurate, and to make sure you're getting a customer on board that is truly credit worthy. So here you see the handshake of AI with a real live person. It can speed up invoice processing. It can simplify that monthly statement, but it can also send out automated payment reminders and let you know priority of who you should call and who you don't have to worry about calling. Don't worry about calling Southwest. They're going to make the payment. They always do. But maybe call Northwest, because if you don't nudge them, they're not going to make the payment. It can give you a report on a particular customer's payment trends. Yes, they're excellent. They're tardy occasionally, or they're always late. So what about credit and collections? Again, with a digital credit application, it's right there in your system. You can pick it up. You can get your bank references. It can help you with credit scoring. This is a repetition of some of what we've already said. But again, enabling accurate forecasting, and you can use intelligent recommendations made by AI while at the same time enable you to take the time to have personal customer interactions. It can help you reduce your write-offs, and improve your DSO. Isn't that what it's all about? It can help you speed up collections and free up cash flow. And how about non-PO invoice processing? Some of you have a project. You may not have a specific invoice when you reach a certain level of your project, but that invoice has to go on when level 1 has been finished, step 2 has been finished. It can help you with electronic invoicing and give you, again, predictive based on past performance. Create without you having to tell it collection letters and reminders. It can set up detailed procedures in your computer system to send out collection letters and how often. But even more importantly, can let you know in your system when to place an account with a collection agency or an attorney. The worst thing you can do is sit on an account too long. The more stale an account is, the harder it is to collect. So it can tell you after 60 days, get this out of your hands and get it into the hands of a collection agency or an attorney. And once you do so, then it can follow up with that collection agency or that attorney without you having to do so. So then it can make a recommendation to you, hey, it's time to sue or not sue. We have something called optical character recognition. This emulates human behavior, so that seems like your customer is dealing with a human being, but we all now know we're probably dealing with AI. It uses software robots to imitate humans and work more efficiently than humans. It can, just like us, can recognize light and dark patterns the same way, frankly, we do to determine letters, numbers, etc., so that you can make sense of what you're reading. One of the best things is this OCR technology. It can recognize patterns, features, line, directions, intersections. So basically, it can translate a document for you. So creating the paperless office file, oh, do I wish I had a paperless office file. I could show you right now that my office is not paperless. I'm trying to get there, but I'm not there yet. But it can store all the documentation related to one customer within your software, which will enable you now to go into your computer and locate necessary documentation by way of keywords. I can tell you this is extremely useful. As I've mentioned now twice already, I recently had to replace my laptop. Thankfully, back up my laptop. So I restored everything from my backup. It didn't automatically put everything into the same place that it used to be. It's all there. Well, just this morning, I was looking for something and I was getting frustrated. I couldn't find it. So I went into that folder of backup and I did a search. And I found what I was looking for based on the search. And then I was able to move it to where I wanted it now. So using keywords, I was able to locate a document and then even within that document, find specifically what I wanted. So how do you get started in all of this? Well, you have to make a decision as to what your objectives are. So you want to do an assessment of what data you have, what kind of infrastructure you have, what do you want and what do you need? Do you want credit scoring? Maybe not. Do you want it to help you with risk assessment? I would say that's definite. How about debt recovery optimization? Sure. The more money you can bring in, the happier you are. How about customer communication enhancement? Probably a good idea. There are numerous AI products and software available, but they're going to want you to give them the same steps you just went through. Tell them what you want. Tell them what you're going to use it for. So be careful. AI can require large amounts of data in order to train and operate effectively, but it can ensure that you are compliant with data protection laws such as the GDPR, which has now been in effect for several years. But you hear GDPR and you say, that's Europe, Wanda. I don't do international work. You may not think so. But if you're dealing with a company that is owned by a European Union company, you may end up having to comply with GDPR. AI could put into your computer the GDPR regulations, and once you determine I have to comply, it can tell you what you have to do in order to comply. Well, as much as GDPR protects anything that has to do with a European background, we have privacy statutes in the United States. Each one of your organizations has to make sure that you are adhering to the privacy regulations in the United States for data collection, storage, consent, processing, implementation, and all these security measures to protect sensitive information. Even as technology is expanding, so are the states putting into effect more and more data privacy regulations. Well, some of you may be listening to me and saying, Wanda, but we don't deal with people, we deal with companies. There is a lot to be said today about the privacy regulations and when and how they are impacting companies and the individuals. So all of these states already have data privacy regulations in effect or to become effective very soon. These states, a continuation, again, have data privacy rules in effect or just recently became effective January 1 of this year, or January 15th, New Jersey will become effective. All of these states have privacy bills introduced and or pending, and this data and the data on the past few screens researched only within the last few weeks, so they are current as of now. So let's take a look, though, at some specific states with artificial intelligence statutes. Colorado requires assessments and transparency when using AI. Tennessee has a law called Ensuring Likeness, Image, and Voice Security. So today, I know I can dictate to my computer. Many times we are using voice technology. Many times my phone opens up with facial recognition, and some of my apps open up with facial recognition. They address concerns over deep fakes or voice cloning. Utah has an artificial intelligence policy act, specifically limits liability for companies, pardon the typo, that fail to disclose their use of generative AI when they're required, and created an Office of AI Policy. California, be very careful. California changes its laws all the time and has some very strict laws. But note, there was a Safe and Secure Innovation for Frontier Artificial Intelligence Models Act to mandate safety tests from powerful AI models. This was introduced in February of 2024. It was vetoed by Governor Newsom in September 2024. I expect we will be seeing a similar statute introduced in California in 2025. So corporations do have responsibility to be socially aware. So the definition is a business practice that involves initiatives and actions by a company to be aware of its environment and social well-being of the community. When we look at corporate social responsibility, we look at sustainability, ethical decision-making, society well-being. And while you may think it's focused only on businesses, many businesses are looking into it for people as well as socially responsible with respect to other businesses, in particular small businesses. AI algorithms can inadvertently be biased. So you want to make sure that any AI you use has fairness built in and mitigates bias to comply with anti-discrimination laws and regulations. So some examples, Colorado has a Consumer Protection Act. This requires a developer of high-risk to use reasonable care to protect consumers from any known or reasonably foreseeable risks of algorithmic discrimination in the high-risk system. Yes, it says consumers. Again, remember, when you're dealing with small businesses, many states look at the owners of the small businesses as though they are consumers. So just be aware of that. We have been able to defeat such statutes in Minnesota, Wisconsin, even California, but more and more we're seeing states trying to protect small business owners. The Illinois Human Rights Act, which goes into effect in January of 2026, prohibits employers from using AI that might be biased against employees. So it's seeking to protect employees with respect to recruitment, hiring, promotion, renewal of employment, etc. So be aware of that. Those of you that are bosses, again, AI can be biased and you want to protect against that bias. So AI in intellectual property rights, your trademarks, your copyrights, your patents. AI can help you protect those. They can determine ownership of AI generated outputs such as algorithms. Think about some creative works. They can be complex, especially in collaborative or automated environments. Who has the liability and accountability for this? What happens if AI causes harm or makes erroneous decisions? This is a significant legal challenge that we lawyers are looking into all the time. You need clear guidelines and make sure any developers, users, and the AI systems themselves allocate responsibility between those as to whose fault is it if something is done wrong. Product liability laws may need to be adapted to address AI-specific risks. Transparency and explainability. You have to make sure there is transparency and there is explainability. Whenever there's a decision that is made, this makes you and your company accountable. Make sure that you can trust your AI system. Again, remember the GDPR and privacy laws that we saw in the slides above can include provisions for individuals' rights to explanation and automated decisions that might affect them. Ethical considerations. Here, not so much credit decisions, but I think you're going to be looking at things such as job displacement, algorithmic accountabilities, the impact on societal values. So all of these have to be addressed in order to deploy reasonable and responsible AI. In October of 2023, executive order on the safe, secure, and trustworthy development and use of artificial intelligence was signed by President Biden. Among everything, AI systems had to be safe, secure, and trustworthy, protect Americans, us, from AI-enabled fraud and deception, protect our privacy, mitigate harms, provide small developers and entrepreneurs access to technical assistance and resources. There is actually AI Bill of Rights that was created, and they talk about AI used in hiring and credit decisions have been found to reflect and reproduce existing and unwanted bias. So the AI Bill of Rights focuses upon safe and effective systems, algorithmic discrimination protections, data privacy, notices and explanations, human alternatives, consideration, and fallback. And you'll notice this was published by the White House in 2022. I will tell you that let me put it this way. We don't know what, if anything, will happen with the AI Bill of Rights and the executive order that President Biden signed in 2023. Come January, when we have a change in presidency, whether AI will be more strictly regulated or more loosely regulated. If you read social media, it is all over the place as to what may or may not happen to AI with the change in regime. Here are some vendors that are available that have order-to-cash management solutions, and I'm not recommending any of them. I would not and cannot do so, but I can just give you names of companies that are out there. And I will tell you this, that these vendors are in fact vetted by NACM as companies that are reliable and safe companies that you could possibly look into working with. In 2024, these were the top AI softwares, and some of them I've already mentioned, ChatGPT and Copilot, with which I just became aware. And of course, Google Cloud has an AI program. So I thank these companies who gave me some information from their own companies that I was able to use in my slides about services and processes that are available to you. That concludes my formal presentation.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, so us, like many other companies out there, are already using some of the platforms to process credit applications and that sort of thing. And I wanted to know if they use AI, obviously, but can I use AI to input a credit application and get feedback on it? I mean, is that legal for me to do?
Absolutely, it is. It's honestly no different than them giving you the credit application and letting you do the hours of manual work, or your assistant to look into what the credit application says. That's the idea of AI. Let them read it, let them do their homework, and tell you the results.
I think that there is a feeling of trust when you put somebody else's information into AI. You know, it's one thing to have a company process it for you, but when you are doing it yourself, there's that trust feeling. It doesn't feel right.
Well, you know, Julie, you and I may be somewhat old school.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like books. Young people today say, what do you mean you read a book? I can read that book on Kindle. So, you know, the Gen X or whatever, they are so much more into the computers than we are. I've had to sometimes force myself into getting used to I've been using ChatGPT now probably for going on 3 years. And as I said, literally this morning was the first time I used Copilot, and I find it is absolutely incredible. When ChatGPT first came out, it was limited. The information did not go beyond 2022, and it would tell you that. I don't have information. Well, actually, it didn't tell you that at the beginning, but then apparently somebody reported it or whatever, and then they fixed it so that it would say, I don't have information that's more current than 2022. Obviously, there are more people inputting information now so that you don't see that. And as I said, when I used Copilot this morning, it gave me the Kansas information. Now, interestingly, the Kansas information it gave me referred me to a news article that had been published about the law, but it didn't give me the law itself. So I still had to go on and pull the law myself. But I think artificial intelligence is a phenomenal tool, and I would not hesitate to use, but again, I want to make sure that the company I buy it from is a legitimate, trustworthy company.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. I'm having a hard time breaking out of the old school way of doing things.
I'll tell you something. Many years ago, when computer technology, I guess I'm going back, oh God, I'm probably going back 15 years. In the federal courts, and the federal courts were the first ones to get on board, they created electronic filing. And we now had to impose our electronic signature on an electronic document and file it electronically. And I was scared to death to do it. And I went into bankruptcy court, and I was in front of, and it happened to be a female judge. And at the end of the hearings, she said, Miss Borges, please approach the bench before you leave today. I want to talk to you. Well, of course, any judge that says that, you start to shake. And I went, yes, Your Honor. She says, I understand you have taken the electronic filing, and it was a 3-hour course. I understand you've taken the electronic filing course. Yes, Your Honor. But you're not doing it. And I said, no, Your Honor, honestly, I'm a little bit frightened of it. She says, get with it. So, and now, of course, we love electronic filing because you know what? You can file something at 5 to midnight and you're still timely.
Yeah. Yeah. So that brings up another question that may or may not be AI. So the digital signature, and a lot of our signatures now on waivers and that sort of thing, we use artificial signatures. We take a picture of our own and put that in so we can use it. What happens in the case that a customer decides to take your digital signature and your real signature that you've put into an app like Handle and copy and paste those onto waivers and send them on your behalf?
Well, that is fraud. That would be fraud, and it's no different than any other kind of fraud. So when you do a digital signature, here's the thing, because you said a few things that made me nervous. You should not be copying and pasting your signature. That is not a true digital signature.
No, I'm not doing that.
Well, nobody.
Our customer did that.
Right. A true digital signature, a true electronic signature needs to be done by computer talking to computer.
Yeah.
So if your customer is taking your signature and copying and pasting it, it's fraud, no different than any other kind of fraud.
Okay.
Gutsy for your customer too.
What's that?
It's a gutsy, or other words for that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bad situation. Anyway. Yeah. I just, I don't know how you fight that when it looks exactly like your signature, or exactly like your digital signature. The only thing, I knew, like, I could prove it with records for waivers that I've done and that sort of thing. But I studied the digital signatures that he copied and pasted many times. And in a digital signature, there's like a red line in between the name and the date stamp. On one of them, he left that out.
Huh.
And I said,
well, because it wasn't digital.
Yeah.
Because the digital signature, DocuSign, Adobe Pro or Pro Acrobat, any of the ones that are digital signature, Build Trust, you're going to see digital signature. You're going to see verified. So if there's not a verification, if there's not that red line, if there's not that sign, it's not real.
Yeah.
And I think you can fight it kind of like where they look up stuff and like your computer has an ID. They could say, oh, this was done on such and such computer somewhere. They could probably see that with the digital signature. I would think that there's got to be some way that they can confirm that it was an actual valid digital signature.
Right. And in fact, if it was done through Adobe Pro or DocuSign or BuildTrust, and there are others, they will be able to identify that. And what you could do, Julie, with those customers that are using this is simply tell them, contact them and say, you have been attaching my signature. That is not my signature. Do not do it. If you continue to do so, I will report you to the authorities.
Yeah, I think that's the best idea. And I would think that Lori would handle the signatures that we use through there are also verifiable. Correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Everything's secure through our system.
Yeah. So anyway, that's about what I had. I appreciate your time today, Wanda, and your presentation. There was a lot of things in it that I had not heard before.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I try to keep it up to date, and I always love presenting to all of you. So thank you for having me today. Have an enjoyable rest of your afternoon.
You too.
All right.
Thanks, Lori.
Thank you, Wanda. Thank you guys, and we'll see you at the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.